Hello everybody and welcome back to the Traxion channel for another brand new video. Now for those of you who've been following Traxion since the very beginning, you may remember back at the start of 2021 I did a Formula 1 predictions video where I basically drove around Melbourne and discussed what I thought was going to happen in the 2021 Formula 1 season. Now obviously a lot has happened since then, the season has been incredible, it's been so exciting, and spoiler alert, I got a lot of these predictions pretty wrong. But what I'm going to do in this video is basically review my pre-season predictions, see what I got right, see what I got wrong, and yeah, basically talk about the season so far. For this video I'm going to be driving as Esteban Ocon around Hungary in the wet, because obviously the Hungarian Grand Prix was the last race before the midway point in the F1 season, and it was an absolute belter of a race, so I'm going to try and recreate Esteban's amazing wet drive, which I'll probably not manage to do, and while doing so, chat about my predictions and just see how wrong I was. So let's jump in.
Good job yesterday from Valtteri Bottas.
Bottas on pole from Perez. It's a good day for driver 2. So this race is going to be fairly straightforward. We're making no stops, we're on the intermediate tyres, and yeah, it's going to just be literally a flat out race from start to finish, so I'm intrigued to try it. This is also my first proper go at F1 2021, by the way, so I'm looking forward to that. Now in this version of the Hungarian Grand Prix, we've got Valtteri Bottas on pole from Sergio Perez. If only that had been the starting order in the real Hungarian Grand Prix, maybe the outcome of the race would have been very different. Let's go for this race then. We're going to hit start, get the clutch in. It's been a long time since I've done a proper race start on the F1 games. And away we go. Lights were out very quickly. We're starting from P11 with Alonso just ahead of us. Struggling for traction. It's very wet as well. Ooh. Sorry, Alonso. We're going to get away with it just about. Squeeze in behind Gasly. Oh, a load of oversteer when I get the power on. It's very, very wet indeed. I can't really see very much at all. Just going to watch for locking up under braking. So yeah, if we start working our way through the teams like we did in the previous video, we can start with, of course, the reigning champions Mercedes. Now, in my pre-season predictions video, I said that I was expecting a very similar year for Mercedes. They were going to, dominate the championship. I did say the regulation changes might affect them slightly, but I've got to be honest, I was wrong. Mercedes, for me, I always thought they'll pull it out of the bag. If anything's going wrong for them, we always think Red Bull might challenge or Ferrari might challenge, and they always fail, but I was wrong, because Red Bull have arguably been the stronger team this season. They've definitely had the better car in my view, or at least it's been very close. So Hamilton is not looking, super odds on for the championship. I mean, it's obviously taken a positive turn for him recently with the problems Verstappen's had, but yeah, it's not a guaranteed championship for Hamilton like many people were kind of expecting, including myself, to be honest. As for Bottas, he's had a bit of a disappointing season. I did say in the pre-season predictions that he would kind of continue his slightly underwhelming driver 2 role and he'd pick up a couple of wins and just do a solid job. And, he started the season off in reasonable form. He had a bit of bad luck, and I kind of felt sorry for him. But since then, he's not really done anything to win over fans, He's just been struggling. He hasn't won any races yet as well, so he's going to have to go some in the second half of the season in order to actually improve. Oh, locking up into turn 1. We're still in P12 behind Alonso. It's going to be tricky to try and make progress in this race. Now, Red Bull, of course, I said at the start, Verstappen's going to be there or thereabouts yet again, but I don't think he's going to be able to challenge Lewis. And obviously the Red Bull has just been a stronger car this year than it has in the last few years. So, I mean, that's good for them. It's good for the sport because it means that we've got this incredibly exciting championship battle, which we've not had in a while. And for Max personally, I think he's had a sensational year in terms of his driving. He's been so composed. He's made the moves when it's counted. He's been harsh but fair. Everything about Max's season driving-wise has been absolutely spot on. He's barely put a foot wrong. He was obviously very unlucky at Silverstone and Hungary as well. Both 2 races in a row actually with bad luck, but if it wasn't for those 2 races, he'd still probably be on top of the championship standings. So, I mean, it's not over for him at all. The only worry for Red Bull is that the Mercedes now seems to be the faster car. I'm losing ground to the cars in front of me here. I really need to step my game up if I want to catch them. Sergio Perez, of course, worth talking about. Now, I said in my pre-season predictions video that Sergio Perez would be better than Gasly and Albon were without being spectacular. I didn't think he'd be that much quicker, and to be honest, I think I got this one spot on. I think Sergio has been an improvement in terms of his consistency, and you can rely on him a little bit more. He's also going to be there to pick up the pieces, but you've got to remember, guys, that Red Bull is better than it has been in the last few years, so it makes sense that Perez is up there, in the top 4, that Albon and Gasly maybe weren't in the same way, because the Red Bull's a better car. And, when you're comparing Bottas and Perez, people are saying Perez is having a decent season and Bottas is having an awful season. Well, Bottas has been on pace with Perez in what is arguably a slower car. But obviously Perez is in his first season with the team, so he's getting used to it all. But yeah, I do think I got that one right. I think, you know, Perez has been probably quite similar in terms of his raw pace to Gasly and Albon, but he's obviously been a lot more consistent and he's really good in his tyres, so, you know, he's had an okay season, nothing spectacular, but he has filled that number 2 role and done the thing that Red Bull needed, really, which was just have some stability in that car. Okay, I seem to be getting to grips with this car a little bit. We're slowly closing in on Alonso, but it's marginal. So next up we have McLaren, and I was wrong about McLaren. I thought they might struggle this season. I mean, to be fair, when I made these predictions, it was before pre-season testing, so I didn't really have anything to go on other than gut feeling. But I just had a feeling that McLaren weren't going to be as strong this season as they were last season. And I was wrong. McLaren, I'd say, arguably are stronger. At least Lando Norris is anyway. He's been doing an incredible job. Possibly the driver of the season. And I said in my video he wasn't, you know, he was very quick and one of the best young drivers out there, but maybe not amazing in terms of his raw pace. And he has proved me wrong. You know, Norris has stepped up a gear this season and he's dominated his teammate Ricciardo, who I spent the whole of the last video talking about how he was one of the best drivers on the grid. I don't think that's incorrect now just because he's having a bad season, but Ricciardo really struggling with that McLaren. I think it seems to be under braking. He's having most of his problems, but yeah, he's going to be losing. Oh, hi Jeff. Ricciardo's going to be losing his confidence with every race, and I just hope that he gets to grips with that car soon in order to try and help McLaren get 3rd in the championship. But Norris, yeah, what a job Norris is doing, guys. Absolutely unbelievable, and I kind of didn't expect him to be as good as he has been this year. I'm pretty much bang on the same speed as my teammate in front, and oh, I'm kind of overdriving in there. If I stop making those little mistakes, we should be able to get quicker, but I'm probably not doing my tyres many favours here. So next up, we have Aston Martin, which were, of course, Racing Point last season. Now, they've not had as good a season as I thought they would, and I think that's definitely got something to do with the regulation change, similar to why Mercedes were struggling this year. Those changes made the cars with less rake basically didn't help them at all. You know, that's Mercedes and the Racing Point were the 2 cars with the kind of, I guess, the least extreme rake, and they definitely seem to suffer. I did, however, say that Sebastian Vettel would have a better season this year, and he'd probably do better than he did in the Ferrari last year, and I think I've been proven right on that front. He had a bit of a shaky start, but on his day, Sebastian can be phenomenal. I think he's proven that multiple times. You know, Monaco was an incredible drive to finish P5. And then, of course, he had his podium at Baku, which he thoroughly deserved, and, you know, drove an incredible race at Hungary as well to pick up 2nd before he was disqualified. So, you know, I think I was right about that. I think Vettel's got a new lease of life. He's definitely doing a better job, and he is outperforming Lance now that he's got used to the car a little bit. And Lance is kind of, to be honest, he's kind of where I thought he would be. He's not been spectacular. He's not been bad either. He's just been a little bit behind Vettel, you know, picking up the pieces and, you know, filling a nice number 2 driver role. I wouldn't say he's kicked on from last season, though, so far from what I've seen with Lance, but then that makes sense because the car isn't quite there. Oh, I just cannot close in on Alonso. It's so frustrating. We could go through this whole race without a single overtake, to be honest. I mean, that would be realistic. You can't say it's not a realistic race so far, but it's not exactly very entertaining. I am struggling, though. Oh. So we should probably talk about Alpine. Oh, big step out there. Now, Alonso, I'm not actually surprised. You know, Alonso, as a returning driver, you would be forgiven for expecting him to struggle a little bit because a lot of drivers, you know, who've been really good in the past have come back and struggled on a comeback. But Alonso was never really out of racing. He was in LMP1s, he was still racing at the top level. And Alonso's the kind of caliber of driver that I think, you know, can keep going for a very long time. So I wasn't actually surprised to see him jump back to the pace so quickly. And it's been really impressive from Fernando. I've got to say, you know, you cannot really fault his performances. He's driven really well. He's been consistent as well, and his racecraft is just second to none, as we saw in Hungary, of course. And with Ocon as well. Now, Ocon, I did say in my pre-season prediction, I thought he was one of the most underrated drivers in the field, and I thought he would give Alonso a run for his money. And I'd kind of say that's what he's doing. Obviously, you know, if you take away the win in Hungary, he was having a good start to the season. But then he kind of went through a bit of a dip in form. There were some people suggesting that he had an issue with his chassis. Oh, drifting in there. And that seemed to be, you know, correlating with poor performances, especially, you know, the likes of Austria. But genuinely, before then, I was obviously keeping an eye on him because I'm a big Ocon fan, and I thought he was doing a really good job. He was, you know, matching Alonso at least at the start of the season. Now, Hungary, for me, was brilliant because it just proved to everybody how good he can be. You know, he was so composed under huge amounts of pressure for pretty much the entire race. You know, he was lucky at turn 1 to get into the position he was in, but from that point on, he didn't make a single mistake with a, you know, 4-time world champion right behind him for the whole race, clearly with more pace. It'd be so easy to just drop a wheel or, you know, miss an apex, and he barely made a single mistake. So I was absolutely delighted for him, and I think it just proves to people, you know, that he is very much deserving of an F1 seat. And for me, I still think he is one of the kind of most complete midfield drivers. He's maybe just lacking that ultimate pace that would see him become a world champion. But I really do think he'd be a great driver for a great number 2 driver for one of the top teams, or just a great midfield team driver long term. I muddled up my words there because I muddled up my chicane. Oh, big oversteer. I'm just trying to push the limits of this game, try and get a feel for it, and it's good so far. It's really enjoyable, although I am struggling a little bit for pace now. Dropped into the 1 minute 30s. Oh, okay, so I seem to be quicker than Norris behind. That's encouraging. The next team to talk about are Ferrari, and, you know, fair play to Ferrari. They have made massive improvements this season. Oh, I need to get that curb right. They've been really, really impressive. You know, and I did say in my predictions video that I thought, you know, Ferrari were pretty close to breaking into that midfield properly. They just needed something to change, whatever was going wrong, and it looks like that's exactly what's happened. You know, the issue they had with the car last year seems to be solved, and suddenly they've got a, you know, pretty decent car. It's not great in terms of its race pace, but its qualifying pace is very good, as Charles Leclerc has proven. Science has done a really good job as well. I'd say he's done an even better job than I thought he would. I knew he would be a great number 2, albeit a little bit off the pace of Charles, and I think that's still true, but I would say he's been a little bit closer than I actually expected in terms of his race pace. And he's not made many mistakes either. Leclerc, for me, is another one who's been a standout this season, and to be fair, he's been a standout for the last number of seasons, really. He's just sensational in terms of his actual raw talent and speed, and he seems to, obviously still makes the odd mistake here and there. He's not quite the complete package just yet, but, you know, Leclerc fully deserves to be a number 1 driver at a team like Ferrari. He's just got something about him in terms of his performances. And his qualifying performances this season especially, you know, to take 2 pole positions in a row in that Ferrari is very, very impressive indeed, and he continues to impress. Now, I think all in all for Ferrari, everyone should be happy, you know. They should be happy with Carlos, they should be happy with Charles, they should be happy with the car's performance. Oh, hello, Fernando. That's the closest I've been, albeit by accident. Do you think I'll actually be able to have a move or have a go at Fernando at any point in this race? Or do you think I'm just destined to be running 12th for the entire race? I really don't know myself. Now, up ahead of Alonso, we have Pierre Gasly. And it's probably time we talked about... Oh, get back on the road. It's probably time we talked about AlphaTauri. I am hugely impressed again by Gasly. He has exceeded my expectations of him, especially when you compare him to the likes of Tsunoda. Okay, he's not had... You know, Gasly's not the best luck in races, and he's not scored as many points as I think he could have this season. But just some of the qualifying performances he's putting in, he's right up there. And Tsunoda, now, for those of you who did watch the Melbourne prediction video, I was touting Tsunoda to be the next big thing, but I did say it would take him a season to kind of get up to speed. And yeah, it's been underwhelming, hasn't it, for Yuki? He's been too many crashes, too inconsistent. Obviously, as a rookie, you're allowed those kind of moments, but he's not really, you know, it's not as if he's been incredibly fast when he's not been crashing. He's kind of been in and amongst the mid to back section of the field, while his teammates been popping in the top 6. I think he had an amazing debut at Bahrain, and I was really hoping he would kick on from there. And that was, his Bahrain performance was kind of what I thought might happen, and I was so excited to see what he would do. But he just seemed to lose a bit of confidence, and he gets a bit rattled a bit too easily. He kind of needs to just rein himself in a little bit and try and stay a bit more calm. But of course, his aggression and his excitement and everything, and his energy is kind of what makes him so good as well. So you wouldn't want him to rein it in too much, but definitely, if he wants to have a long-term future in F1, he's going to have to just dial it back a little bit and kind of build up from the bottom. Oh, I'm really struggling on these tyres now. Well, if we're going for realism points, you can't deny I've got the difficulty level right for this race. Sitting right... Oh, no! Oh! Oh, no! Oh!
Oh, no! Oh!
That was a big moment. We're going to keep on going. Just as I was going to say, it's realistic that I've been following my teammate this whole race. I make a mistake like that and Norris goes through. I've turned damage off just to be safe because of the wet conditions. So I should be absolutely fine, but that was not good. Let's see if Norris can now break away or if I can get back. So we've covered AlphaTauri, and next up we have Haas. Now, what can you really say about Haas? They stopped developing their car. They're focusing fully on 2022. And okay, they're miles off the pace of everyone else, but they've got 2 rookies that are, you know, happy to be in F1 in the first place. I think it's fine. I don't think anyone, you know, I don't think anyone would hold it against Haas what they're doing this season. I think everyone's very aware that they're slow, but everyone knows that they've got the kind of their eyes on next season. And okay, it's a shame to have a team just give up on development, but it makes a lot of sense. You know, I don't blame Haas for what they're doing at all. In terms of the actual drivers, Mazepin, as I expected, has been a little bit aggressive on circuit and not making too many friends out there, although he's been a bit slower than I thought. I honestly thought Mazepin would challenge Mick in terms of pace in the first season at least, especially since Mick seems to struggle when he first joins a new championship, but honestly it's not been like that at all. Mick's been comfortably ahead of Nikita, so in, you know, simply on performance aspects, Nikita's been pretty underwhelming and disappointing. Mick Schumacher on the other hand, you know, obviously it's difficult to really compare him how he's doing in terms of his pace, but all you can do is beat your teammate, and he is definitely doing that, you know, and some. He's made a few mistakes, like any rookie would, but unlike Tsunoda, when he's not been making mistakes, his performances have been, you know, very encouraging, whereas Tsunoda's been a little bit underwhelming. So, you know, I think Mick's in a good place, and he just seems like a very, very humble guy with a good attitude, and yeah, I think he's got a long future ahead of him in the sport. I'm really struggling with my tyres now. Not only am I losing it to Norris, I think I might be under threat from Yuki. Actually, no, I've got an 8-second lead. What am I on about? I'm safe. I can do some drifting. I'm still doing 129s. It just seems like everyone else is just a little bit quicker. Just 2 teams left then. We have Alfa Romeo and Williams. Now, Alfa Romeo, let's start with them. It's a weird one with Alfa Romeo this year. They started the season very strongly. Everyone thought they were going to be kind of challenging the back of the midfield rather than the front of the back field, if you know what I mean. But actually, they've kind of underwhelmed, haven't they? They almost disappeared. Like at the start, the race pace seemed pretty good. They just weren't quite on the points. You know, they were finishing around 12th, 13th. And now, I just think of them as being right at the back with the likes of Williams. Obviously not quite as bad as Haas, but yeah, they just haven't seemed to have gotten everything out of that car when they could. And yeah, they're paying the price. They're now behind Williams probably in the Teams Championship. I haven't actually checked that, but I think after the Williams result at Hungary, Alfa Romeo are now behind them. In terms of the drivers, you know, Kimi Räikkönen, similar speed probably to last season, but he's actually made a few pretty bad mistakes, including crashing into his teammate at Portimao, obviously crashing into Vettel at Hungary. You know, it's not been the best of seasons for Kimi. Probably his worst in the 3 years he's spent at Sauber, or Alfa Romeo. Giovinazzi, I think he's continuing to just slowly improve, but is it enough to give him a long-term future in Formula 1? I'm not convinced. I've always given Gio the benefit of the doubt. I really like him. I think he's good, but he's just not shown enough to really say, okay, this guy is really improving, and if you put him in a midfield car, he'd be, you know, scoring points every round.
You're pulling out a second lap on the car behind.
You know, I'm actually closing in on these guys in front a little bit. Just very slightly. I don't think it's going to be enough to get them, but I'm not embarrassing myself. Oh, shouldn't have said anything. That was close.
Trailing our teammate by 1.6 seconds.
And last but certainly not least, we have, of course, Williams. And Williams made it very clear at the start of the season, you know, their car has a very small operating window where it can be very competitive, and as soon as there's wind or, you know, it's out of that window, the car's going to struggle, and I think that's been pretty accurate. George, phenomenal. Every single qualifying session he's been up there. I think he's made it into Q2 way more times than he's gone out in Q1. And obviously he made it into Q3 finally. So, you know, George on a Saturday, absolutely phenomenal. On a Sunday, I just don't think the car's got the race pace, to be quite honest. I don't think it's the driver's fault. Nicholas Latifi has shown kind of similar to Antonio, really. You know, small signs of improvements. He's had flashes of speed where you've been impressed, but obviously, you know, I think a lot of people would agree that Nicholas Latifi's just not quite quick enough to be, you know, to have a future as a #1 driver in Formula 1. You know, he's there. Obviously, he's well backed. He seems like a really likable driver, very nice guy, and he's not bad by any means. He's just not quite right at the top. To be fair to Latifi, though, as I said, he's conducted himself very well. And look at Hungary. You know, he finally he took an opportunity when he had it. He didn't make any mistakes and picked up a P7, which is incredible for the Williams. You know, so you've got to give him credit.
Final lap of the race.
I did make some predictions about George Russell in the upcoming seasons in the pre-season kind of guide thing I did at Melbourne, but I'm going to leave that for the next video because I'm going to talk about the, you know, what I expect to happen in the second half of the season and kind of preview that as well. But for now, it's kind of just reviewing what's been so far. And I think it's been, as I said, one of the most exciting first halves of a season we've had in a long, long time. F1 was in a bad way for a while. It wasn't very exciting. Lots of people were complaining about the racing. And now we've had probably 2 seasons in a row of really, really exciting racing. Okay, the cars you still can't really overtake, but they look awesome. The speeds are incredible. And I think when the rules change next year, we're going to see a fantastic mix-up. The main thing for me that makes F1 exciting, though, is the fact that cars are evenly matched and can battle each other. You don't just have the same car winning every single race, and because of Red Bull this season, that's changed, and also the rest of the packs close the gap. You know, so to see Ferrari and McLaren fighting for pole positions or at the front of the field, that makes a big difference to the excitement, because it's not just the same, you know, 4 cars every single time. So yeah, it's been phenomenal. We're going to come around the final corner. It's going to be 13th. We only changed position once in the whole race after the mistake I made. That's it. Unfortunately, I am not Esteban Ocon. Daniel Ricciardo, driver of the day for McLaren. That's not something we've said too many times this season. Bottas wins in Hungary.
It's a heroic effort for any drivers for racing conditions like these.
F1 2021 really isn't predicting very accurately what actually happened in 2021.
A well-earned victory for Mercedes.
We don't see enough of that Valtteri Bottas smile anymore, do we? He's always under pressure. He's always getting ridiculed by the public. I feel for him, you know. He's not a bad driver, Bottas. He really isn't. He's good. He's just not doing as good a job as, you know, people were hoping as the second Mercedes driver. Looking at this, I actually had a faster lap by Alonso than 6/10, so the potential was there. In terms of my fastest lap, I was actually looking at probably around about P7, so I think the difficulty was spot on. I just wasn't being consistent or quick enough. Well guys, that is it for my mid-season review of my pre-season preview, if you get what I'm saying. But yeah, I think I covered everything. I don't think I did a very good job at the start of the season, but in my defence, testing hadn't happened yet. I was kind of, as I was saying, I was going off my gut instinct, but I got a lot of things wrong, and I love that because it shows that F1 is unpredictable and you never really know what's going to happen. So it's been an incredibly exciting year, and I cannot wait to see what happens in the second half of the year. Thank you so much as always for watching, and make sure you keep your eyes peeled on the Traxion channel for more F1 and other racing game content coming up, as well as my F1 mid-season preview for the rest of the season. Not a review of the preview, but a new preview updated for the second half. Keep an eye out for it. I'm rambling. Thank you very much for watching. Keep it pinned and have a great day.